have taken you from the Imperial City's prison, first by carriage and now by boat. To the east, to Morrowind. Fear not, for I am watchful. You have been chosen.
Wake up. We're here. Why are you shaking? Are you okay? Wake up. Stand up.
Well, hello, dear viewer. As you can see, Jube lives, and he talks to me, and I'm going to put in my name in a second. There is a little problem with this playthrough. Actually, the playthrough is quite cursed, I must say. This is the third or fourth time I am starting this. And also the commentary you are currently listening to is recorded post-playing, after I played this, because not only I lost my hard drive after I first tried to record this, not only then I got for some reason, a corrupted recording when I tried it the next time. Eravin, yes, Eravin is a good name, Belly, very nice. And but then when I finally got it all together and this recording survived somehow, I discovered later that my commentary is not recorded properly, and so
This is where you get off. Come with me.
I am basically watching it with you, and I will be commenting exposed. Anyway, I was, and I have been rather excited about starting Morrowind again after all these years. I can't even remember where was the last time I played Morrowind. And this turned out to be actually a pretty good start, pretty efficient start. So I guess we could treat this episode as a guide on how to start Morrowind, because most of the things I do, not all of them, but most of the things I do here are rather effective, I would say. The best and the most effective ways of starting Morrowind, including some pearl hunting for money and generally good decisions in the first few starting quests, so yes. Not so sure about the character generation itself, if it is the best thing you can do. I will be speaking about it in a second, but generally speaking, as you can see, I am picking up a Dark Elf. There will be a lot of thinking about the looks, of course. And the Dark Elves are rather cool because they get Sanctuary power, daily power at start, which means they are harder to hit because, of course, in Morrowind, unlike in Skyrim or even in Oblivion, you have a chance to hit or get hit based on your armor rating, so not every strike lands properly. It can be a little bit frustrating for the modern taste, I guess, but it is roleplay-ish, at least. Your skill value actually matters a lot towards what you can achieve with your weapons. So I would probably, for the class I'm about to choose, I would probably do best by picking a high elf, not a dark elf, but I wanted to be immersed and roleplay and be the part of Morrowind in some sense. Also, yeah, the dark elf is the second best choice. They're actually one of the best choices in this game for most things, I believe. As you can see, their skill bonuses are pretty nicely spread between combat and magic, and also the Ancestor Guardian, as I said, the Sanctuary power just from the get-go is rather useful, and Resist Fire is rather useful, and we are going to pick a class. I think I can cut here and bring you to the... What was I talking about here? Why the mouse movement, Belly? Anyway, I think we can cut to the class generation. Although I must add that the fact that they look so Roman, so Romanesque, Roman-like, all these soldiers, Imperial soldiers in this game, really gave me a little bit of a nerd boner back in the day, because I was already rather captivated by the Roman history.
Yes, we've been expecting you.
You'll have to be recorded before you're officially released. There are a few ways we can do this, and the choice is yours.
Yes, one of the last fully voiced NPCs, well, at least for this scene here, and I am going to pick a class from the list. This is the one thing that is not extremely efficient. It is not actually the best thing to do at the start, because obviously, usually you would like to create your own class, even if it is very similar to one of the listed classes. This, for example, has a problem that the favorite attributes are intelligence and endurance. Meanwhile, probably intelligence and willpower would be more effective. So you could pretty much create the same class, but just switch a favorite attribute, one of them, and maybe replace one of the armor skills, because you are probably going to use medium or heavy, not the mix of both, I don't think. Replace one of the armor skills, for example, with another magic skill, or with alchemy. But the cool thing about this is that it feels exactly how I played it the first time I played Morrowind all those years ago. I was choosing a class from the list for, I believe, maybe my three first playthroughs. Only then I discovered the power of creating your own class, and therefore I did more of my own classes in Oblivion later on. So yeah, the skill selection for this class is actually very, very useful. You are a decent fighter. The problem is that without, well, maybe that's why the endurance is actually a favorite attribute, because we will have a problem with low HP, but it is not that much of a problem. We will increase it over time quite steadily. The restoration skill would also be good to have on the list, for example, so maybe not replace the attribute, but maybe pick a restoration instead of one of the armor skills, or instead of marksman, which I am quite sure I am not going to be using as a sorcerer, because why would I? Unless it's for thrown weapons, because take that Skyrim, Morrowind actually has thrown weapons by default.
The letter that preceded, you mentioned you were born.
So yes, now we have our class selected, our face selected, and the time is to pick up the star sign. And of course, I'm going for the Atronach, because yes, twice the intelligence bonus to your Magicka. Stunted Magicka is going to be a little bit of a problem early on, because it means we can only restore our Magicka through potions, basically. Sleeping won't help, and pretty much nothing else will, but the absorption will be good, and you can, for example, do a trick that I will frequently employ, and if you find a shrine in the wilderness, in a temple, you can absorb the blessing and therefore get all your Magicka back. And if you don't absorb the blessing, you will get the benefits of the blessing. So that is actually a very useful thing. It costs 35 drakes, but we will farm money early in the game. And now I get excited by the fact that the UI is so customizable in this game. Take that, Sky UI. Yes. Anyway, I forgot to take my papers. Take the papers, Belly. Yes, of course. Yes, So I think the Atronach is one of the best choices if you can work around the stunted Magicka problems, which is not that hard, actually. Especially that as a sorcerer we have, for example, Bound Dagger as our starting spell. It is the best dagger in the game, or one of the best daggers in the game. From level 1 is accessible to you, and it costs very little Magicka. So and the difficulties with the Magicka restoration are kind of on the side, kind of secondary, for this class, for this character. Yes. Now you do the thing that you take all of this because it's worth septims and nobody is looking, and that's what you usually do. It's not probably the most roleplay thing to do, but you get a lot of useful starting things, starter equipment. You can basically plunder everything. All the baskets you can see on my right at the moment. There is a cellar of sorts, a cellar, basement right down this. Yes, yes, yes. Show it, Belly. Yes, right down here. There are some crates and sacks. No, just baskets and sacks actually. With sometimes they have useful things. It's randomized, so it's hard to know. But there is often a chance that you will. For example, yes, sloat soap. It's worth 30 drakes each. So if you have a character with a barter skill or mercantile skill bonus at start, you can actually make quite a sum of money for yourself early on. And this is pretty much for efficiency only. You can, and perhaps if you are a proper role player, should go and try to do your best without this, well, thievery. And here is the engraved ring of healing that you pretty much always pick up, and then there is a decision to make about it later on. And now we have the magic menu, which is actually quite fantastic and also fully customizable. Look at this. Wow, what a technology. Yes. So the Ancestor Guardian is my power, my daily power, and then you can see Bound Dagger. Absolutely fantastic to have at the start.
Your papers, please.
Yes. And now we are faced with the dreadful discovery, realization that most of the NPCs, if not all, almost all of the NPCs in Morrowind will not be voiced, and you will have to do awful lot of reading, and that's painful. But this guy here is a high-ranking officer, and he wants us to deliver a package, because we were released from the prison at the personal behest from the Emperor Uriel Septim for some reason. I don't think our character Eravin knows what the hell is going on and why that happened, but nevertheless it happened, and we are tasked with delivering a package and a letter to Caius Cosades, I'm going to pronounce it Cosades, in the town or the city of Balmora north from here. This is, of course, the very first quest of the main quest, and I actually very much like how the main quest is paced in this game and how often it gives you an excuse to take a break from the main quest. It's something that never happened afterwards, not in Oblivion and not in Skyrim, and that there is always a sense of terrifying urgency in both of the main quests of the later Elder Scrolls game, and it often, I would say, conflict with the general premise of exploration and open world kind of adventure, where you pretty much decide what you want to be, and both in Oblivion and Skyrim, if you want to sidetrack and if you want to just go and explore, you often feel like a complete jerk, because you just abandon the obviously critically important duties to I don't know, harvest some ingredients for your potions, or hunt, or build a house all of a sudden. And here, you can't unfortunately build a house, and not in the vanilla game, and not without mods. But you are encouraged by the quest givers of the main quest to do your own exploration, work for your own reputation in the world. And I really think this is something missing from the future, from the next Elder Scrolls games, the opportunity and justification for the player to just go out and explore. Yes, and now I also have a few mods installed, very few, because I want this experience to be very close to the original, but among the few mods is Morrowind Comes Alive, which is a kind of poor man's Radiant AI. It adds a randomized selection of NPCs to the towns, and inns, and temples, and crossroads, and some of the NPCs are hostiles, most aren't. There are companions or followers to be encountered in the taverns and inns, so now I have to customize it to my liking. Frankly, I disable most of the options. I just leave the most crucial ones, including the companions, the possible followers, which will be actually quite hard to get for this character, because we don't have any persuasion skills and a pretty low personality from the start. Yes, so as you can see, I'm customizing that. I will have some random bandits on the crossroads and some companions and some travelers, but pretty much nothing else. I am disabling most other options and pick the least intrusive, smallest size of the hostile parties that this mod can spawn. Now I have the journal, and now I will have to customize my hotkeys. You see, there is 9 options. Take that, Skyrim. So now, after customizing all my options, all my buttons, all my hotkeys, I have to do the thing that is probably one of the most vital, which is buy and sell stuff. This is probably one of the most vital things in Morrowind. But first I want to, of course, yes, first of all, this dude. He lost the ring that we just found in the office, in the excise and census office. And it is a little bit of a difficult decision because I don't have any access to restoration spells yet, and the ring gives me one, so it would be nice to have. On the other hand, it is it's not that necessary. I will be fine with potions, I assume. Here, I presume I will find them with the potions, and the discount that he gives me for turning the ring back to him, the discount he gives me at the local shop is probably better for me long term, especially that I am about to stay here for a few days to prepare myself for the journey and to accrue some money. And this little guy, if you ask him for little advice, he will tell you about his general sad state of life, that he wants to leave this wretched, swampy village, and a woman working at the local Siltstrider port, which is the main mean of transportation around the island, she is his friend, and he wants me to talk with her about him for some reason. I guess I will do it before I leave. Definitely, it's just one click for some sort of a reward. So do, and once you leave the office, definitely talk to both of those NPCs we just talked to, Fargoth and Vodunius, this guy, this Imperial here with a ponytail. And now, the crucial part, with Ariel here in the local trade house, let's sell all the loot, all the ill-gotten gains we brought from the Office of Excise and Census, or Census and Excise, or from the tax collectors. And yes, click this, Belly, click this, click the barter. No, okay, apparently I want to see what spells are in store. Okay, and now I discovered that I suck at haggling, which is of course expected, because this is not at all our skill, and now I have to change wear all the armor, use all the weapons I've got. This is not the most bountiful experience. And yeah, some starter gear ready. Yeah, still suck at bartering. And now I also have a pauldron, and because I reloaded and tried to access the merchant's inventory again, and there was a pauldron, which is for some reason is very important to me as a sorcerer, to have a single pauldron and a single armored glove or gauntlet. I'm sorry. For some reason, it is crucial. I'm not sure why, but maybe because it's the only game, and afterwards it was never possible to have just one gauntlet and one pauldron, and generally customize these little elements of your armor yourself. And you can see Morrowind comes alive in action, just a random knight. She is, I believe, yes, a member of the Imperial cult, and I can even join the Imperial cult here and say that in, just by talking to her. That is interesting, although I am going to skip for now. Harvesting some ingredients to sell. I'm not going to do much alchemy yet, just harvest everything. Some of these mushrooms can be useful later in Balmora for your first Mages Guild quest if you are going to join. And now I try to do something slightly more risque, which is find some pearls in the collops at the bottom of the sea. And this is probably the worst possible place to do it because it's rather deep, and I'm going to spot some of them at the bottom, but it will be way too deep, and it will be related to great many slaughterfish fights. But at least you can fight underwater in this game. Take that, Skyrim! Ow! Yes. Yes, our first heroic victory over a slaughterfish. And yes, so now I'm trying to find pearls, which will take some time, and it will be, well, spoiler alert, futile at the first try. Yeah, you can see a little shimmer, glimmer, shiny thingies at the bottom right now. There is pearls. There's a chance for pearls down there. And I get so greedy for some reason that I think this is the absolutely best of ideas to go there, even though the sea is full of slaughterfishes, and this is probably the deepest spot I could have found some pearls in. There are much better spots, more to the northeast and more to the northwest from here, for doing this. If you want to find them all very early, you will need to find or make a water breathing potion or a spell somehow. But I didn't have any early access to water breathing, so this is actually really, really futile and unnecessary what I'm doing now. Also, the water in this game is surprisingly pretty for a game this old, and now I'm trying. I'm really, really, really hell-bent on getting those darn pearls. Look at this. Look at my breathe meter up there. It's absolutely senselessly silly what I'm doing. I've got so greedy here. What the hell were you thinking, Belly? Now I'm trying to run. I collide with a slaughterfish, and it is not going to end very well for me. I'm trying to save myself at the last second somehow, but no. Okay then. And some more heroic fights and adventurous behavior in the form of destroying a mud crab. I really have to think more about my fatigue. The green bar at the bottom left, it is actually rather important and refills much more slowly than stamina in Skyrim. You probably need to remember that you have a chance to fail with your spells when you have low fatigue, and also you will drop to the ground while you have 0 fatigue, which will come into play later, unfortunately. So you have to actually manage that little green bar much more closely and carefully than in later Elder Scrolls games. And while getting some practice and experience from slaughtering little creatures of Kinnereth around Neen, I've encountered this quest. Yes, there is a rumor about the missing tax collector in Neen, and that is his body, unfortunately. We can find some money and a tax registry, sort of. And it will be a clue there. There will be a clue in that document about who owes the most to the Office of Excise and Census. Yes, Census and Excise Office. Yep, there is a visible clue. In there's one guy, Foreign Gilnith, who owes the most, 225. He has not paid yet. So, spoiler alert, he is the culprit. He is behind the untimely death of Processus Vitellius, I believe is the name of the tax collector. Yeah. And now, of course, you have your first roleplay choice to face. Either you keep the money and don't tell anyone about that about the body in the wilderness, or you go to the office to Socius Ergala that helped you create your character, and tell. When you tell, the quest proceeds. And now this happens. Completely forgot about that. It always takes me by surprise. Always, no matter how many times I play this game. There is a mage falling from the from the sky. Also quite near, quite close by to Neen, and he actually has an enchanted long blade, which is great because it's our first enchanted item, but it sucks because it's a long blade in which we are not very skillful. But this here scrolls, the scrolls of Icarian Flight, can be very useful and actually be used for a speed run, if you believe. If you also have a potion or a spell of slow fall, feather falling, I believe it's called. So here I am considering taking his robe and leaving him naked because I like his robe. And of course, after some consideration, I take the poor guy's robe because why not? Oh, and actually, this is his journal. Actually, I will decide, if I remember correctly, to sell two of the 3 scrolls to Aril to get some extra money. I do not expect to try and do anything remarkably silly and exciting with those scrolls, which gives you a supernaturally high and long jumps. You can jump over half of the province, basically, quite literally, with those scrolls. I don't really expect to use them. I will leave one in case I ever want to access some, hard to access areas. But other than that, I will not need the scrolls, so I will sell them. And some more experience gaining, some more farming, and some acrobatics training. Okay, now I have a little bit more money. I can probably buy some more spells. I need a ranged spell, but not yet. For now, more of the adventurous capitalism. And now back at the tax collector's office, we have to decide what to do about the death of the tax collector we found there in the wilds. And after some consideration, I will tell Socius about my finding. And this actually prompts us to do a little investigation, which we are about to do. And after the end of the investigation, after you bring the matter to its natural, although a little bit slightly terrifying conclusion, you will be rewarded with even more money. So giving these 200 drakes back to Socius here is actually a very short-term loss for a long-term gain, and so it's for efficiency and to make your early game easier, it's actually the better choice. Right, so we can start our investigation by talking to people about the murder of Processus Vitellius, and this will prompt a story about the tax collector being in cahoots, being friendly, or rather sweet, with the lady in charge of the local lighthouse. So the next step from here is to visit the local lighthouse, of course. Yeah, and so it turns out that this lady here was stupidly and senselessly in love with the tax collector. Nobody knows why, nobody knows what for. But apparently that was the case, and she, of course, is shocked by the possibility of him being disposed of by one of the citizens, and she tells you that there was a quarrel not long ago between her lover and the guy who owes the most money to the office of excise and census. I don't know. I never remember how this institution is called. To the tax collectors. So now we go into this little shack here, where Foreign Gilnith dwells. He is responsible for the tax collector's death. And since we have a one-time license to kill granted by Socius Ergala, we can make a choice to deliver justice, so to say, or to deliver forgiveness, because the dude claims quite strongly that he was persecuted and mistreated by the tax collector, of course. So this is a roleplay decision, and probably, but, well, not exactly roleplay only, because, as mentioned, if you dispose of the poor Dark Elf here, you will be rewarded with quite a lot of money, and he also has something on him, a ring, that we may want to deliver to the lady we've just talked to in the lighthouse. Except you have to be prepared. This dude here is rather good with his unarmed attacks. He will drain your, not stamina, your fatigue rather fast, and you will spend, therefore, most of the fight, if you are not very good with your fatigue, on your knees, which will be very, very embarrassing, especially that you are I am well armed here and quite well armored, and he is just a dude, a fisherman with fists. And yes, as you can see, my fatigue bar is already half depleted, and he is delivering some quite staggering punches, and he has quite a lot of HP. So this is not the easiest of early fights, as you can see. Yes. Let's do it. This isn't Oblivion. This ain't Oblivion. He will not follow us through doors between cells. So I will just, take a little breather, come back, and with the best dagger, one of the best daggers in my hands, because I am a sorcerer, I will try to do something. Although, this is how it can end. So I take another breather. A little breather. The evening is very nice. The weather is agreeable. There are people to talk to and gossips to ponder, and the water is nice and calm. It's a nice day. What can I say? It's a nice evening. I wanted to take a breath. The dagger again, please. Yes. Yeah, this dagger is absolutely deadly at this level. It almost feels like cheating. And yes, the aforementioned ring. I guess if you have a mercantile skill to start with, you can consider keeping the ring and maybe selling it later, along with this book, which is worth 150 drakes, which is great. And now this poor girl is obviously shocked by everything that transpired, and he will take the ring from us, and paying with 2 standard restore health potions, which are actually very good for this level, for this early in the game. They are worth quite a lot, and they will be extremely useful later, because there are still quite a few things you can do around Neen to facilitate your later progress, and I kind of advise to focus on all the things you can do around Neen before you venture to Balmora. And more capitalism. And now the reward. The reward is 500 septims, which is really, really decent at this stage. Definitely worth it. And it looks like now there is the time for first real adventure. Well, a little bit of an adventure. This is a smuggler cave, Adamasartus, if I remember correctly. Adamasartus. All the names are rather hard to remember and pronounce in this game, but anyway, here we go. Now there are 3 different enemies in this locale. The first one is rather easy. That girl over there, she has a simple weapon and no armor, if I remember correctly, or very little armor at least. She is not going to be a problem too much. She isn't hard to hit. She is basically a free training for our skills. And she has a key that is important for later. Okay, but now we are going to face a much bigger threat. This dude over there is a mage, and he can drain quite a lot of HP with a single spell of his. Luckily, we are the Atronach. We are born, as you can see, under the sign of Atronach, and this is very extremely helpful in this instance. He will destroy our attribute and our health anyway, but just imagine what would have happened if I weren't absorbing half of his spells. I would be dead already. This is why Atronach is actually quite useful. Possibly one of the most powerful star signs in this game, if not the most powerful, much like in Skyrim actually. So chug one of those potions we've got, and the problem is solved. But yeah, without Atronach this would have ended very badly. And there's another enemy specializing in ranged attacks with the thrown weapons. Skyrim, I'm looking at you at your apparent lack of thrown weapons. With thrown weapons, with shurikens, they fly rather fast and they can deal decent damage to you. So she is kind of dangerous as well. But I'm using Sanctuary now, my daily power, that will make me much harder to hit, and some additional armor. And now with my super duper bound dagger, she should be no longer much of a threat, although she is the hardest to actually successfully hit from all the three of them. Now I don't really know why I switched to the short sword, but nevertheless, all my protective spells, well, two of them, my protection spells were successful. I did not take a single hit, which is also not that obvious. So if you are not playing a Dark Elf, for example, you can consider buying the Sanctuary effect from Ariel before entering this cave. And now some capitalism. There is very often quite a lot of useful loot in those crates and chests around this around the cave. And while we are here, we should also set these poor fellas from here free, because generally freeing the slaves can unlock another quest, a fruitful quest later on in the game. So it's probably the best to do it whenever you can. It's a very strange situation. Apparently the Empire, the Tamriel Empire, is firmly against slavery, unlike the actual historic Roman Empire. Meanwhile, the locals and the local aristocracy from Morrowind is actually very much for very traditional guys. You know, what can you do? What can you do? So it's a tough choice. Well, roleplay wise, it's a tough choice, especially for a Dark Elf. Gameplay wise, it's an obvious choice. You should free the slaves. And okay guys, this is it for now. A very simple way and very efficient way of starting your playthrough in Morrowind. Just do the few starter quests, especially the tax collector one, and go to that Adamasartus cave and be very careful. Buy a few spells, sell a few things, and you'll be very fine. Especially with the Atronach stone. No, it's not the standing stone. It's a star sign here in this one. And mind your fatigue, and everything will be just fine. And in the next one, hopefully with a live commentary, we will do a few more things around Seydanin. Actually, I wanted to say we'll go to Balmora, but not immediately. We will do a few other things, because there are dungeons around Seydanin with some really fabulous loot. Anywho, stay calm, stay safe, be nice to your mom, clean up your room, and we will see each other again. Bye-bye.